We have breaking news in the NBA as the Washington Wizards just traded for four-time All-Star Trae Young, sending out CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. The deal took a little bit for it to finalize. It pretty much took all day in the past 2 days or so to actually get something to work out in Washington. So it's awesome to see this finally work out for the Wizards. Now it just kind of depends. All right, what are you going to do with Trae Young? That's kind of what we're going to talk about in today's video. What do you do with Trae Young? What's his purpose on this team? Are you going to extend him? Are you going to try to trade him next season or even in the offseason? What about cap space? What do you do in the draft now? Are you going to keep that pick that's top 8 protected that the Knicks have right now? There's a lot of question marks that surround this team heading into it. So we're going to break down all of that in today's video. Before we get into all that though, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you stay up to date on all the information regarding the Washington Wizards, as this will not be the only move that they make this trade deadline. I am sure they're going to be active and trade away some of their other role players that teams are interested in, like Marvin Bagley III, as he's someone that contenders would like as a backup big on their squad. With that out of the way, let's go ahead, get into talking about this trade, get into today's video. Trae Young, he's a Washington Wizard. It was announced earlier today, at the time I'm making this video on Wednesday, that his top destination was Washington. And that was pretty much because Washington was the only team interested in Trae Young. They were the only one that would be willing to take him on. So it's really interesting to look at it like that, because Brooklyn and Minnesota was on his list of places he wanted to go, but neither team wanted anything to do with him. And mainly it's because his contract, as he's making $45 million right now, and his player option when he picks it up, and he's more than likely going to pick it up, is for $49 million, almost $50 million. It's a lot of money for a guy who's on a down year right now, undersized guard who can't really defend all that well. So I get why teams didn't want to trade for him. The Washington Wizards, however, they are in a situation where they can take on that cap space. They're not necessarily worried about cap space for this upcoming free agency. The only player I think they'd be worried about trying to get would be Austin Reeves. And it's not even for sure if he's going to pick up that player option or not to stay on the Lakers or try to go get more money in free agency. So that's still up in the air for him over in LA. But the main thing was freeing up cap space for the 26-27 season. So in that 2027 off season, when you have a loaded free agent class and some guys that you're going to have to extend, like Bilal Coulibaly, you have this cap space to do so. And this is why this trade is so important looking at it. And like I mentioned, here it is right here. The Atlanta Hawks are trading four-time NBA All-Star Trae Young to the Washington Wizards for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. I will say it sucks trading Kispert. It does suck trading Kispert there. But it is what it is. You deal with it. You roll with it. So what? All right. So you got that. You got Trae Young. That was the big thing. Kispert, like I said, the front office loves him. I know that for sure. They didn't want to trade Kispert whatsoever. However, they realized that was the only thing going to get this deal done. They wanted to get Trae Young. They got him over there. I will say they did want draft picks. At first, they were trying to go for that Cleveland pick is what it sounded like, but the Hawks wouldn't budge whatsoever. And then they were like, okay, let's get some second round picks. Give us a few second rounds in return and we'll do something. And the Hawks are like, we're not going to do that either, or else you're going to have to give us a first round pick in return. Dawkins isn't going to do that. He's not going to trade a future first for 2 or 3 seconds, because that's what it pretty much be, because they already had the straight up swap of, CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert for Trae Young. It was just a matter of trying to get some draft compensation, and the Hawks weren't budging. All right. You're not going to trade any members of your key young core of like Sarr, Trae, Keyshawn, Bilal, and Bub to, the Hawks for any of their, picks whatsoever. Is going to have to be a guy like, if you do it, like a guy like Justin Champagnie would be the guy traded for a, first round pick if you're doing that thing. And the Hawks just weren't interested. They wanted draft compensation in return whatsoever. So the fact that the Wizards didn't give up any draft picks is a huge win by itself right there. Let's look into some other things that people have been saying about the trade as well. Greg Finberg, a guy that I absolutely love, keeping up with him on Twitter and everything. The Wizards started with Bradley Beal, traded him for CP3 plus 6 seconds plus 4 swaps, traded CP3 for Jordan Poole plus a 2030 first round pick, dump Poole salary for CJ McCollum, then traded McCollum's expiring salary for Trae Young. I'd say that's pretty good asset management, and I agree with you, Greg. That is some amazing asset management right there. When you look at who Trae Young is as a player, it's pretty solid that what you just got in return. Because like, he mentioned, you started with Bradley Beal and you got all these seconds and, swaps right there. And you also got, CP3 for Jerome Poole and then a 2030 first round pick. And then you dump Poole's salary for CJ McCollum, which the big thing for dumping Poole was to free up cap space in the 26-27 offseason. And then with Trae Young, like we mentioned, the last year of his deal, if he picks up the player option, is next season. So you still get that cap space freed up. Now, it's going to be interesting to look at if the team does extend him and keep him long-term, if they have long-term goals for him. I'm sure more of that will clear up when he comes here, gets his physical done, passes, the medical stuff, all that good, jazz going down there in Capital One. And then, if he plays a little bit this season, look into an extension, maybe, if you get something working there, maybe he works out really well with the team. Okay, that'd be awesome. Let's go in and extend him. Maybe you wait till next, season, have him play a little bit and be like, man, he's doing really good. Let's go in and extend him right now. Let's get that done. I think they just want to see how he fits in on the team first and see if it's one of those things where it's like, look, it's not going to work. Let's try to boost his trade value and ship him off somewhere else again and get some draft compensation this time. Or it might be one of those things where it's looked at as like it's a great trade. It has pushed the Wizards into playoff contention, not as contenders, but, they're a, dark horse in the playoffs to make a little run to the conference finals. That'd be something else to look at as well for the Washington Wizards trading for Trae Young. It's also something to mention. Let's look at what their projected lineup will be. Trae Young, 27 years old. Tre Johnson, 19. Bilal Coulibaly, 21. Keyshawn George, 22. And then Alex Sarr, 20. Trae Young will be the oldest player on the team once Chris Middleton is eventually bought out, as I think Chris Middleton is going to be bought out at some point. There's not really a trade market for him because of his contract, so you got to buy him out. So at that point, Trae Young, he will be the youngest player on the team. Him or Anthony Gill, one of the two. I can't remember how old Anthony Gill is exactly. I know he came into the league at a later age, but getting Trae Young, like I said, great deal. And you look at what he's doing this year, like I said, a little bit of a down year. It is. In 28 minutes per game, he's averaging 19 points on 30% shooting from deep. As you can see, he's still averaging 9 assists per game and only 2.5 turnovers. I like that ratio. He's going to be a great lob threat for Alex Sarr. I absolutely love that. I think next to Tre Johnson is going to be some great shooters, and it's going to take some of, the attention that teams are putting on Tre Johnson now as a shooter away, because now you have to focus on Trae Young a little bit. So it's going to open up his game some more and space out the floor. I think it works out with Bilal Coulibaly, who's been, a little bit more of a slasher lately. So I think it helps out a ton of players on this team. The only player I'm interested to see what it does for him is Keyshawn George, as we don't really know how this is going to affect him, because Keyshawn can play on and off ball. I just don't know what this is going to do to his growth, if it's going to stun it, or if he's actually going to play better by having Trae Young on, the team. So it's going to be really interesting keeping up with that. And like we mentioned, the future of this team also looks solid when you look right here. That starting five, don't mind it whatsoever. Realistically, the starting five is, when Trae Young is healthy, is Trae Young, Tre Johnson, Bilal Coulibaly, Keyshawn George, and Alex Sarr. Realistically, that is the starting five, not Chris Middleton and Bub Carrington in there. That's realistically the starting five for this team. You look at the reserves, of course. I mean, as we know, some of these aren't necessarily right. Then you look at the projected salary next season, $158 million. The first apron is $195.9. Like that's insane that they're still that much under, the apron, where really if Austin Reeves is available, they still have a realistic chance of going to get him. That's the crazy part about all this. They still have the chance to go get Austin Reeves in the offseason if they truly want to, or another free agent that'd be available. They got some draft assets too, like, we mentioned earlier. They were trying to get more draft picks. They couldn't. But right now they have 10 incoming first. 6 of them are tradable. They have 2 swaps in, for first-round picks, and then 15 future second-round picks, which are extremely valuable. When I've talked to Tyler Rucker at No Ceilings NBA, second-round picks are extremely valuable in the NBA right now because 3 of them can trade you up into the first round. And with how teams are building, you have to really evaluate talent in the second round now. So teams kind of want these second-round picks and see what they can get for these two-way guys. So, like I said, really interesting with how this trade went down. The fact that they were trying to get picks, they couldn't though. It sucks, but still, the fact that you turn CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert, an aging veteran, 34 years old, who's on the tail end of his career. Corey Kispert, who's always going to be a good role player, great spot up shooter. Nothing else really, even though I do love him and wish him the best in Atlanta. trading those two guys for Trae Young, who's a 4-time All-Star and has proven when he's, having a good time, he is one of the best guards in the NBA. Statistically, you see it. He averaged almost 30 points per game one season. The past 3 seasons, I think he's been averaging 25 point something points per game, along with 10.8 assists on 35% shooting from distance. Pretty good stats. Just give him in the right situation. I think Washington is the right situation for him, and you got something cooking here. But like I said, major trade for the Wizards. This is huge. This kind of signals that the Wizards are about to exit this rebuild, intentionally lose some games this year, so you still get your first-round pick, potentially top 3. Get one of those guys in Boozer, Peterson, DeBonsa. Then next season, you might make the playoffs. So Wizards fans, bright things are ahead trading for Trae Young. Let me know what you guys personally would grade this trade in the comment section below. I'm giving the Wizards an A- just because they couldn't get any sort of draft compensation in return. And I'm giving the Hawks a B+ because they couldn't get any picks in return, but they didn't give up any picks either. So I think it's a win-win for both sides, realistically. That's all I got in the video. I'll see you guys in the next one.